Hey everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating philosophical collision, modern technological advancement going head-to-head with the ancient concepts of faith and rationality. As our tech gets exponentially smarter, are we basically building a new god? And honestly, what does that mean for human purpose?
To kick things off, take a look at this wild perspective from tech visionary Sam Altman, which is quoted right in our source material. He notes that the most successful founders are on a mission to create something closer to a religion. I mean, wow, right? This sets the perfect stage for the speaker's overarching argument today. Our frantic, modern pursuit of technology is becoming deeply, unmistakably religious. So here is the roadmap for how we'll break down the speaker's arguments today. First, AI as a modern religion. Second, the crisis of meaning. Third, atheism and rationality. Fourth, transhumanism versus Christianity. Fifth, merit versus grace. And finally, stepping into the water. All right, let's jump straight into section 1, AI as a modern religion, tech as the new divine.
It's actually kind of crazy how specifically AI mimics the divine when you stop and think about it. The source outlines several ways we're projecting deity right onto our tech. We treat these systems as omniscient, like they're capable of answering literally any question we have, and omnipresent, since they're accessible everywhere, all the time via the internet. People are even using AI as a confessional, sharing their deepest, darkest secrets with chatbots. The speaker points out that we are even seeing the formation of actual AI worship groups. People are practically praying to systems that they're treating as a higher power.
Moving on to section 2, the crisis of meaning, the two halves of the brain. Now, why is society craving this new tech religion in the first place? Well, relying on Dr. Iain McGilchrist's neurological theories, the source outlines a deep, fundamental divide in how we process the world. The left hemisphere of the brain is characterized by a narrow focus. It's highly rationalist and reductionist. The right brain, on the other hand, processes the big picture context. That's where we get meaning, beauty, and culture. The speaker argues that for over 500 years, the West has severely over-indexed on that reductionist left brain, completely neglecting the right brain, which actually provides the vital context and meaning to our everyday lives. This brings us to a quote that really anchors the speaker's whole diagnosis. We now find ourselves in a world where we understand how almost everything works, but we know the meaning of nothing. He argues that a purely physics and chemistry worldview creates this massive black hole of meaninglessness. Because humans desperately need purpose, the argument is that we're trying to escape this void by elevating our technological creations into objects of worship. That existential void leads us right into section 3, atheism and rationality, the skeptic's paradox. Okay, consider this fascinating thought experiment. If you knew your computer was the end product of a completely mindless, random process, would you actually trust it? By asking this rhetorical question, the speaker is challenging us to consider a profound paradox. He argues that if our brains are solely the result of a completely unguided, random evolutionary process, how can we possibly trust them to produce reliable rationality or conduct complex science? And here is where the speaker pulls a complete reversal of expectations. He argues that atheism actually undermines the rationality needed for science, exactly because it relies on an unguided mind. On the flip side, he claims his Christian faith is firmly grounded in evidence-based trust. He likens it to the exact same kind of objective trust we use in science, in medicine, or even just in our daily human relationships. Let's shift gears a bit to section 4, transhumanism versus Christianity, diverging paths. The source directly contrasts these two movements, pointing out the absolute opposite directions they take regarding human limitations and divinity. Transhumanism represents humans reaching up, right? Trying to enhance ourselves to become little gods through technology. Christianity, the speaker notes, is the exact inverse. It tells the story of a God who reached down, becoming human to give us life. The speaker goes on to offer a pretty sharp critique of the whole transhumanist agenda. He argues it attempts to build a technological utopia without ever facing the fundamental human damage, or what he calls the sin problem, basically the inevitable ways humans hurt each other. He also critiques the transhumanist goal of uploading consciousness and curing death, arguing that from his worldview, they're kind of too late. For him, those problems of physical death were already solved 20 centuries ago through the resurrection. Now for section 5, merit versus grace, the cookbook analogy. The source breaks faith down into two distinct camps. Most people out there think of religion as merit-based, a scale of justice where you weigh good deeds against your bad, hoping you've done enough to earn acceptance.
But the speaker strictly distances Christianity from this, defining it instead entirely by the concept of grace. In a grace-based view, acceptance is granted freely right at the start of the journey, not desperately earned at the very end.
To show just how absurd that merit-based system is, the speaker brings up this brilliant, humorous analogy of a cookbook marriage. Just imagine handing your spouse a cookbook on your wedding day, presenting them with a list of rigid rules, demanding 40 years of perfect baking, and offering your love only if they perform perfectly. The speaker notes that audiences laugh because, obviously, it's a completely absurd way to build a relationship. Yet, it's exactly how many people have been taught to view God. True relationship, he argues, has to begin with unearned acceptance. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, Stepping into the Water, the Mechanics of Trust. The speaker grounds all of this in a really practical thought experiment. If someone tells you there is a brand new red Ferrari parked outside that belongs to you, how do you actually verify it? You can't just sit in a room analyzing the statement in circles forever. Eventually, you have to get up, go outside, and look for yourself. He uses this to prove that circular reasoning simply isn't enough. Eventually, you have to actively investigate claims of faith in the real world.
And that brings us to the actual, literal definition of a skeptic. Coming from the Greek root skept, it means to look at something from a distance. Now, the speaker actually identifies as a skeptic himself, but he notes a crucial limitation here. To truly know a person, whether that's a spouse or a divine entity, you must eventually give up your safe distance and make yourself vulnerable. You just can't love someone from afar forever.
We're going to leave you with the speaker's ultimate challenge, perfectly captured in this final question. He asserts that you literally cannot know what swimming is until you step off the edge and get into the water. Whether you're exploring the existential promises of modern AI or the historical claims of ancient faith, eventually passive observation has to turn into active experience. So, what are you observing from a safe distance today that might require you to finally take the plunge? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep asking those big questions.